So welcome to the only session about nature-based solutions. We got this room even though we were supposed to be in a smaller room because there were supposed to be more people here, but I mean, let's make it very interactive. That's the great opportunity we have now with a smaller group is to make it more interactive. So that's what I would like to do because I know it's 4 p.m. Some people might want to take a beer, but I'm happy that you're here, so let's make it very energizing and let's start. So my name is Arnoud van Balen, working for World WaterNet as Partnership Officer in West Africa. And I will shortly introduce the panelists later on, but I would first like you to scan this QR code and fill in some questions so that I know who the audience is. Then we swap to the exactly perfect. So you can see there's people from the Netherlands, Germany, Portugal, the Netherlands for the typo. The Netherlands in orange as well as it's supposed to be. Indonesia, Kenya, nice. So also people from Africa and Asia. Anybody from North America? Any Americans? I know, we had some budget cuts for the US aid, but maybe there's some that still were able to make it. Sweden. Any South Americans? So no Americans at all? Guys, we've got an issue here. Oh, Canada. Okay. Good old Canada. And Costa Rica. There we go. So actually we cover the whole world, at least all continents. So that's cool. So let's move to the next question, please. So, yes. What kind of organization are you representing? So the water utility, consultancy, regulator, government, development agency, NGO, or academic? Yes, a lot of water utilities, that's good, because that's what we're gonna cover today. Perfect. I think we can move on to the next question as well. Thank you. Yeah, what's your level of familiarity with nature-based solutions? Have you ever heard of nature-based solutions? First time ever that you've heard about it? Have you ever seen the acronym before? Yes or no? So please let us know if you're familiar with it. Because then I also know where to start with my presentation, if I can go deep already, or should I start with the basics first? Could we see the results, Jamie, or is that not one of the options? Otherwise, we could just nature-based solutions. Is that familiar to everybody, or are people still new with the concept? Anybody who has not heard of nature-based solutions before? Okay, that's great. Jamie, if you could just move to the next question, that's perfect. And then, what are your expectations? I think that's a very important question. Like I said before, I want us to make it a bit more interactive, considering it's already late during the day, so we don't want to be throwing information to you. We want to be interactive with each other. So we will actually, at the end of the presentations, move that back to this one. So if you could provide already with some questions, if you want to, yeah, the link between WOPs and nature-based solutions, practical examples. Yeah, we'll touch all those topics. Great, so you will be able to have more questions here. So I think the question will remain open for this session. And then at the end of the session, we'll move back to this question and have a Q&A with our panelists. So if we could move back to the PowerPoint presentation. Great. So this morning there was already a great start that explained what climate change is and how it is affecting the water management. So I won't be repeating too much, but at the same time, repetition is key for remembering it. So the main challenges of climate change are water availability and reliability. So at the same time, we have droughts, but also floods. And of course, they interact with each other because the drier the earth is, the less retention you have in your soil. So I was just talking with Dima about Jordan and about the fact that, you know, there's drought on one side, but then when it rains, you have floods. And like, we would like to be on the middle ground, but that's due to climate change, it's quite difficult. The water quality is degrading quite fast as well because the water temperature is increasing, so you have more microbes in the water. At the same time, due to the floods, you have more sedimentation, so you have more pollutants in your water. The infrastructure vulnerability, I was looking in our image bank from World WaterNet, and one of our projects in Laos was really showing with a video, and I was afraid that the video would not be good, so I didn't use it, but it showed how the water infrastructure was being clogged after severe rainfall patterns. So during the heavy rainfall, more and more pollution came into the water system, clogging all the pipelines. So in that way, also climate change is affecting the water systems. Public health risks, like I said, a lot of microbes are being found in the water due to increasing water temperatures. At the same time, also droughts are causing people to have less reliable water sources. And that's also affecting economic and social impacts. So often what I've seen is that women are responsible for water in the households. If there is no reliable water source nearby, they are expected to go to the next well, which might be kilometers away from their household, which then causes them not to go to school. So that's a very big social impact. And also the economic impact for water utilities. When there's no water, they cannot earn any money. So those are the effects in a nutshell of climate change for water utilities. I want to show that as well in our WOPs through World WaterNet. In Burkina Faso, for example, you can see the desertification. So we're trying to combat that. Flooding rivers in Laos, you can see the destruction along the riversides, and also where you see the people that used to be water inlets. That's also no longer there due to heavy rainfall patterns. Floods in Amman, which Dima will also talk more about. Dry riverbeds in Tanzania. So this used to be a perennial river, so throughout the year. And then during the last few years, you have more and more human activity and climate change along the river, which makes the river grow dry. But it's going to be a good session, so we're not going to be like, oh, everything is going to the wrong direction. Actually, nature-based solutions do have a higher potential to mitigate those risks. So for example, if we move back here to the dry riverbed in Tanzania, we're now working with climate-smart agriculture, which is getting the rivers back throughout the year. And that's also for other cases. So we are able to mitigate the risks of climate change. However, if you look to all the investments being made in the water sector, 800 billion, and I landed this slide from Ms. Madrigal, but 800 billion is being invested in gray infrastructure, and less than 1 billion per year is being invested in green infrastructure. Let's make that change, because there's so much potential. Like, of course, we do need gray infrastructure, right? We do need those pipelines. We do need treatment plants. We do need dams. I mean, it's unlikely that a small beaver will build a dam for us, but it might happen. But gray infrastructure is needed, but let's complement it with green infrastructure. And that's why also, I think it was last year, we made a partnership between the Nature Conservancy, Waterworks, Blue Deal, Nature for Water, and the Dutch NWB Fund to promote green infrastructure in our WOPs, because it's really necessary, and it's also very effective. So what we'll discuss today is how we can use nature-based solutions in our water utilities all across the world to really mitigate climate change. And what we first need to discuss is what are nature-based solutions, because is planting a tree somewhere along the riverbank nature-based solutions or not? So let's first have that definition. And that will be given by Diana Madrigal, who is an environmental manager and has a Master in Science in Integrated Water Management from the University of Queensland. She is passionate about environment, social and sustainable development issues. Before joining the Nature for Water facility, Diana worked as an analyst in the Water and Sanitation Division of a multilateral development bank overseeing large-scale water and sanitation infrastructure and solid waste projects. She's also the founder of an NGO, I was quite impressed, that helps to empower and break poverty cycles among young people in communities at high social risk in Costa Rica. So please.
Thank you. So just to be sure that we are all in the same page, we're going to be looking at what nature-based solutions are. Okay. So this is a definition and probably the most common definition on nature-based solutions. And basically what they are actions or initiatives to protect, sustainably manage, or restore degraded ecosystems or environments to address different human or environmental challenges. And why do we need nature-based solutions? I'm not gonna stop here. We know all the challenges that we are facing. 2 billion plus people are experiencing extreme water security challenges, and this will only increase and get worse if we don't act. So what are nature-based solutions? Here are a few examples, but most importantly for me, nature-based solutions are an opportunity to address those water security challenges that we've all been speaking of this week. So here are a few examples. So you can see targeted protection, regeneration, best management practices in forestry, ranching, agriculture. And one really important aspect to mention is that nature-based solutions work really well, but they work well at scale. So reforestation here and there is okay, but it won't work if it's not really at scale. And that's where the key is. And so again, nature can help. And this slide, and I'm sorry if that's a lot of information there, but basically what I wanted to show you here, if you see on the upper part of the slide, we have water security challenges. And in the first column, we have nature-based solutions. And basically the color, the darker yellow, what tells us is the magnitude of the benefit. So if you look at the first row, when we see protection, we can see that protection will help us address sediment issues, probably higher than other nature-based solutions. So there are a lot of nature-based solutions. Again, they will help at scale, but most importantly as well, every place, every landscape is different. So it's not every nature-based solutions is adaptable for every nature-based solution should be adaptable for every landscape or scale. And finally, what's really important also to highlight, and what's great about investments in nature is that they won't only provide us with one single benefits, they have multiple benefits. So we've been talking about how to tackle climate change, how to do adaptation, and this is also a great solution and a great investment. It's very difficult to find investments that have more than one benefit. Well, this is it. We can restore biodiversity, enhance community resilience, promote equitable and inclusive development, create green jobs, and the list goes on. And I'm sure that we can't even account for all the benefits that nature can provide. And this week, I've been listening a lot on people before pipes, which I definitely agree. We need to build on capacity. But nature before people and before pipes, because if we don't invest in nature, the investment in people and pipes will be useless because we don't have water. So we need to go back to those protecting those sources of water to be able to invest in people and in pipes. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for setting the scene and explaining what nature-based solutions are. So then we move forward to the first case study from Mr. Ruben Fernandez, who is a member of the executive board of Aguas e Energia do Porto, if that's correctly, the municipal utility of the city of Porto, where he leads initiatives across water and energy systems, sustainability and strategic planning. He is also an invited professor at the University of Porto School of Economics and Management and a researcher at CITTA, the Research Center for Territory, Transport and Environment. Holding a master's in economics and a PhD in civil engineering, Ruben's work bridges infrastructure, environment, and policy to advance sustainable urban transformation. Ruben, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and it's challenging to see things from here. Thank you for being here. We have more people assisting to this presentation. So Águas e Energia do Porto. So we are a municipal utility. Just let you know what we do in our day-to-day activities. So we not only manage the water supply and the stormwater and the wastewater drainage. We also treat wastewater. We also manage the stormwater infrastructure, which is different from the wastewater. We also take care of the blue infrastructure of the city, so streams and rivers, and also the seafront area of the city. And 4 years ago, we decided also to integrate the energy in our utility. And all of that also under the umbrella of environmental education and, of course, water heritage, okay? Those are just some big numbers. We are located in the northern part of Portugal, okay, in the city of Porto, which has 250K inhabitants, but actually the amount of people that we have per day in the city is more than half a million people, okay? There you have like the big number of our stormwater infrastructure, around 600 kilometers of pipes, and we have 85 kilometers of urban streams and rivers, excluding our main river, which is the Douro River. And 82% of these 85 kilometers are piped, are enclosed in underground infrastructure, which presents some challenges to us. So, in our climate change adaptation plan, we identified for Porto the main climate change challenges that we face. Well, as many countries, the decrease in the average annual precipitation, the increase in average temperature, the rise in the mean sea level. But of course, that these three challenges, they are very important for Porto, even though we are not in a context yet of water scarcity. The underground water levels are becoming lower and lower, and this is affecting the ecosystems, the natural ecosystems of the city, okay? So this is something that we are worried about. Our main challenge is, in fact, the increased of precipitation, because whenever it rains in Porto, it is a heavy rainfall, and it puts our blue and gray infrastructure, so our stormwater infrastructure and our streams and rivers to test, okay? Because they cannot accommodate all the water, which means that at the end of the day, we have flooding problems in the city. So this is our strategy, okay, nowadays. So in the beginning, like when the company was founded, which was in 2006, even though we have more than 100 years of existence, not as a company, but as a service of the municipality. So in the beginning, we were very focused on rehabilitating our streams and rivers and also the gray infrastructure, on daylighting our streams and rivers, because 82% of them are still piped. Of course, all of this also coupled with improving the water quality of streams, which is a problem, I think, all over the world, promoting the biodiversity conservation. And more recently, because of these flooding problems that we have in the city, our strategy expanded. So now we want to create a sponge city, and we already taken like some very important steps to do so. So we are focused on also infiltrating water as much as we can, and also on creating a permeable city, okay? One of the first steps that we've made was to create a plan, okay? I think as a planner, so my background is on civil engineering, but I'm an urban planner, so I think that's the very first step that we should all take, is to make a plan. So we made a plan that initially only focused on our streams and rivers, but very soon we realized that we needed to connect this plan to our gray infrastructure, to our stormwater infrastructure. So this plan is, well, it follows like the logic, the rationale of every single plan. It has a diagnosis. We included, of course, climate scenarios because the reality is changing in a quite dramatic way. We have then an action plan and, of course, a number of monitoring actions. Um, and one of the most tangible outcomes of this plan is what we call Porto Mais Permeável, in English, a more permeable portal, okay? Which is, okay, going back, we have a number of package of actions, okay, and some of these packages of actions are related to sustainable urban drainage. So we put all of those together, and all of those together, they gave birth to this program, which is a sponge city program, okay, to the city of Porto. Actually, it aims, as it is written in the slide, to integrate water, integrate the blue infrastructure, if you want, so in the city's urban development, okay? It aims at promoting, as I told you before, the infiltration of water, the retention of water. And in doing so, we adopt the following approach. We look at a basin as a whole, so we can understand, like holistically, what's happening at a basin scale. But we also have actions and that go to the plot scale. So it is a program that goes from basin to plot, okay, and everything integrated. We also, so that's why we implement like big nature-based solutions, okay, large-scale nature-based solutions that aim at solving the most dramatic problems that we have in the city to micro suits, sustainable urban drainage solutions that we already studied and proved that the sum up of many micro suits can actually solve the problem of a street or of a square, okay? So um, also, in all of this, we realized that we could not make this journey only by ourselves. So we involve like the main key stakeholders of the city, namely the private stakeholders, which are very difficult to mobilize usually, and of course the community. We need to co-create solutions with the community. Okay, so these solutions can be understood by them and can be also used by them. For instance, we are adapting green areas in the city, and we need people to understand why the topography of these green areas is changing because those are retention basins at the end of the day, but retention basins that people can use in their daily lives. Um, so these are just some examples of what we've been doing. All these examples are from Portugal, okay, even though some of the names may look not Portuguese. So from micro suits, like in the street of Santos Pousada, to permeable pavements. Also, in our plan in Porto Mais Permeável, we have gray infrastructure like that big stormwater tank in the second image from the top, because in a very dense city as Porto, well, we cannot solve everything with nature, unfortunately. Okay, so there has to be like a mix between these two approaches to large scale solutions such as the Estrella Park, which has the ability to accommodate 10,000 cubic meters of water whenever it rains. Okay, so these are just examples. We have many other solutions in place, of course. This is, I think, is the very this is the successful point of the history. Why this program is working? It's because at the very beginning we focused on the governance model of the program. So we realized that we needed to involve the municipality, a lot of departments of the municipality, the Portuguese Environmental Agency, other public entities that make interventions in the public space, private real estate developers, and at the end of the day, the community. So we decided to sit all of them in the same at the same table once per month. Okay, so this is happening till today. And because we needed a carrot, especially for the community and for the private investors, we created, in a partnership with the municipality, what we call the environmental index, which is basically some kind of fiscal incentives, so like reducing the tax property, yes, the properties on. Tax, also the possibility to increase the building capacity in a plot if nature-based solutions are implemented in that plot, such as retention basins, infiltration wells, and so on. So this is a carrot, and it's working. And I know that I already surpassed my 10 minutes time, but just to let you know that our main outputs for this program at the moment are to develop a a sustainable drainage guide that can be used by every single entity that makes interventions in the public space, to integrate sustainable drainage concepts during the preliminary design of every single project, especially the big ones that any kind of stakeholder is planning to implement in the city, to create and review a natural risk map that we want to integrate in the city's master plan. It's not there at the moment, okay, which is a serious problem. And of course, to have like this very simple standards sustainable drainage solutions that even like a single person such as myself can implement within my plot. Okay, so these are the main outcomes so far, and this is the first step to creating the key piece that we need to integrate into our master plan, which is like a flood risk index and map. It contains a lot of variables such as social vulnerability, the occurrence of floodings in different parts of the city, the steepness of the territory. So this is like a multi-criteria map that soon, like in a couple of months' time, will give rise to our flood risk map. Okay, and with this, well, I will give the word to the next speaker. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Ruben, for your presentation. Also, thank you for highlighting the need for good stakeholder management for successful implementation. And I'm sure there will be more questions later on. So if you have questions now, either remember them or put them in the app that we just showed you with the QR code. Moving forward to Ms. Dima Abu Diab. She is a research, she is the head of the UN Habitat Office in Jordan. Since joining UN Habitat in 2018, she has led several programs with a focus on developing the national urban policy for Jordan, advancing climate change adaptation, addressing water scarcity, promoting inclusive and green public spaces, and implementing flood mitigation and nature-based solutions. She brings more than 20 years of experience in spatial planning and urban development in Jordan and the Middle East. Before joining UN Habitat, she held several positions across governments, institutions, urban research centers, and the private sector. Dima began her career at the Aqaba Special Economic Zone Authority, where she worked for 6 years as an urban planner from 2007 to 2012. She served at the Urban Workshop Center, leading the development of strategic and urban development plans for various regions in Jordan. She then assumed the position of Urban Studies Director at Consolidated Consultants Engineering Firm, where she managed multiple projects across the region. She holds a bachelor's degree in architecture from the University of Jordan and a master's degree in spatial planning from the German Jordanian University. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an expert talking about this topic, so please welcome Ms. Diab.
I thought it's a short bio, but ended up it's a long one. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure actually to be here with you and to sharing with you our experience in applying nature-based solutions to strengthen the resilience of communities and refugees to flash flood in Jordanian cities. Arnaud mentioned some of the incidences of flash flood in Jordan, and specifically in Amman. So in this presentation, the aim is to highlight how integrated urban planning, evidence-based analysis, and community engagement can help cities to adapt to climate change and also create greener and more livable public spaces for all. So let's start by setting the scene and giving you some information about Jordan. Jordan is facing an increasing water crisis, and this issue is becoming like a water security issue, given the geopolitical situation in the region. So this crisis is driven by rapid population growth, successive influxes of refugees, and rapid urbanization. The country's per capita water availability is less than 100 liters per person per day, significantly lower than the international benchmark of 500 liters per person per day. So the problem flash flood has been intensified by rapid urbanization, impermeable services, and extreme rainfall events, causing to human losses and also infrastructure damages. The photos in front of you shows like two major flood incidences that took place in 2015 and 2019, and it shows one of the main archaeological sites in Amman downtown that was drowned with flash flood. So these events have underscored the urgency of rethinking how cities can be more effective in terms of managing stormwater and also enhance climate change for the future. So within UN Habitat, our comparative advantage is grounded in 6 key principles, namely strategic partnership, evidence-based planning, and this is where we start all our work in Jordan. Climate Refugee Nexus, this is an initiative that our king launched in one of the WOPs previously. And a global expertise and networking, and most importantly, our normative and operational tools. And finally, on piloting some pilots on the ground and showing their impact on the lives of people. So our flash flood resilience work in Jordan is built around 4 interlocking components that reinforce one another. The first one is evidence-based planning, as I mentioned, where we use data and mapping to identify high-risk flood areas. Second, network leadership, engaging decision makers and local champions to drive collaboration and change. Third, empowered youth and innovation. And by the way, Jordan is one of the countries where it has like high percentage of young population. Young population comprises like more than 60% of the whole population of Jordan. So we involve students and young professionals in co-creating these nature-based solutions, as I will show later. And finally, by piloting green infrastructure where ideas can be tested and demonstrated through pilot projects. So in 2000, our story of implementing nature-based solutions started in 2020, where we conducted a flood risk assessment and hazard mapping at the scale of the city. So this study identified more than 120 locations of flood hotspots across the city, providing a solid evidence base for decision-making. So this assessment proposed an integrated set of short, medium, long-term interventions combining infrastructure improvements, I mean large infrastructure, as well as nature-based approaches. So these findings guided us to select pilot sites in close collaboration with the Greater Amman municipality that could demonstrate practical solutions at neighborhood level. So the red icon shows the project that we have implemented as part of this study. So in 2022, and based on this study, we piloted Az-Zuhur Green Triangle project, a project that demonstrates how nature-based solutions can deliver both environmental and social benefits. The idea was to transform a normal traffic island, a triangle, into a multifunctional green space capable of managing stormwater and at the same time providing like a green spot. The design, as you can see on the screen, integrates a series of bioretention areas, biodetention area, bioswales, and also native vegetation to Amman, all working together to drain, detain, and filter runoff water, helping to recharge underground water. This project transformed what was once an empty plot into a vibrant green pocket offering ecological values while enhancing the community's urban environment. It looks like a public space, but it has more functions than only managing the traffic. So here you can see the site during the construction and the huge underground stormwater tank, which you cannot see after implementation. And at the inauguration of the project, His Excellency Dr. Youssef Shawarbi, the mayor of Amman, described the project as a catalyst for hundreds of similar initiatives and a stepping stone toward larger, actually, strategic solutions for the city. So the success of this project demonstrates that with the right partnerships, innovation, and local commitment, nature-based solutions can become an integral part of mainstreaming urban development. And my colleagues mentioned previously that if you want to really upscale these nature-based solutions, they need to be mainstream in local plans, regulatory frameworks. And it also, this project sparked the interest of other donors to replicate and upscale similar initiatives in the city. Now we moved from piloting to replication and started the replication and upscaling of this approach by providing the nature-based solution work in Jordan, an urban climatic context. We have opened the door for replication in other cities and also in Amman. And with the support of the Dutch government, we were able to identify more urban typologies in which we started also to design nature-based solutions. And these are roundabouts, intersections, leftover lands, public spaces, parks, and also staircases, because Amman is also quite famous in staircases were the first urban typologies that were implemented around different mountains. Amman is a hilly area that was founded on 7 mountains. So also, we started designing these green infrastructures, and also we picked 3 more locations for community-based interventions, and these are distributed across the city. So these are some photos for the green infrastructure. We selected 3 local consultants because the aim of this initiative also to build the capacity of local consultants on how to mainstream nature-based solutions in their urban design projects. So the one to the left is a public space where we introduced a plaza, sunken plaza, a football field as well, and rain gardens. And these were inspired by actually some best examples in the Netherlands last July, and happy to see our partner World Water Net also in the room. We conducted an official mission and exchanged knowledge between Jordan and Netherlands, and we were inspired by some amazing examples like Rotterdam Plaza. And these are some other examples that consultants came up with, like a vertical element to collect the water, and then this water will be collected in one of the tanks and repumped to irrigate the green space. So these are some examples that were right now in the design development phase, and we will start implementing these designs beginning of next year. So in parallel also, we launched a new award called ELMA, Environmental Legacy Maker Award, for university students to encourage them to come up with innovative solutions because they're part of the decision-making process. And right now we issued the expression of interest and received like 14 expressions from students to design nature-based solutions in more 3 locations. A normal parking lot that can also collect the water, and we've seen a lot of these examples in the Netherlands during our official mission, and also a public space that was dedicated by Greater Amman Municipality as a climate change academy, and also another staircase in Amman. So I want to also finally highlight the catalytic impact of this work. So across the globe, and particularly in the MENA region, cities are facing similar climate and water challenges. So as Zuhur Green Triangle and our broader resilience initiatives go beyond single interventions. They demonstrate how small, well-designed, and nature-based solutions can inspire systematic change at city level. So nature-based solutions are more than environmental interventions. They are tools for urban transformation and resilience building across the region. Our ultimate goal in these initiatives is to create connected network of multifunctional, climate-resilient spaces, and not only to manage stormwater, but also to enhance the quality of life and also strengthen communities' resilience to climate change and flood. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Dima. And again, if you have any questions, put them in the app. The next presenter I would like to invite is Ardian Widi Laksono, who is a research and development officer at Porumda Air Minum Tirta Modal, the Semarang city water utility in Indonesia. He works as a researcher to enhance utility operations and serves as a bridge between stakeholders from the city, provincial, and national levels on matters related to water resources and supply management. He's actively involved in the Waterworks project, a water operators partnership between VAI, Dutch water operators, and Pidam Semarang, focusing on improving service delivery, leveraging investment, and creating and enabling environments for sustainable water utilities. Currently, PDAM Tirta Modal has been selected as one of the locations for the pre-feasibility study of the Nature for Water program, an initiative led by the Nature Conservancy to integrate nature-based solutions within watersheds to strengthen urban water security. Adrian, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arnold, for the introduction. It's also quite long, actually, so it's not short. But yeah, thank you. So before start, I would say sustainable greetings to all of you. In Indonesia, we always call Salam Lestari, or in translation is sustainable greetings. It's like a tagline because this kind of thing is we cannot do it alone. We need to do it together with all of the stakeholders. So we have a one word to keep up the spirits to implement this because yeah, we need to work together in this. So sustainable greetings to all of you. Okay, so next. Yeah, so before we start, I would like to give you a little bit context about Semarang City, the location where we will going to start the projects with the Nature for Water. So if you see in the slide, Semarang City is a city, metropolitan city with 1.8 million people. And 75% of the water came from two watersheds within the Ungaran Mountain, which is the Garang watershed and Blorong watershed. Since most of the water comes from Ungaran Mountain, we call it as a water tower of Semarang City. And as a context, also from us, PDM Semarang, currently we are serving 200,000 customers with annual water production is 105 million meter cube per year. So this is very important for us to really secure or sustain the water from the Ungaran Mountain. And this is why it's important to do nature-based solution here. Because in Semarang, there are a lot of water resources related problem. For example, in the dry season, we have a water scarcity, which is limiting the increase of service coverage because if there are no water, basically as water utility, then we could not produce water because no water in the source. That's first. The second is the high turbidity because the turbidity is very high, the water quality is very bad. The current treatment plant is unable to produce the water, especially in the high rainy season. And because of that, there's a supply interruption, which is lead to another problem to the customers. And then not only that, we have a newly built Jati Barang reservoir, which is a gray infrastructure, it's very big reservoir. And because of the deterioration in the upstream, the lifetime of those reservoir is going down from 50 years to 30 years. So only relying on the green infrastructure is actually not enough. Yeah, and then it's because of the land use change, reduced infiltration, etc. So it's resulting all of this problem. And we even also need to consider about the climate change, which possibly also make it worse of this situation. And also not related about the water utility or water supply, but also about flood, which is also currently in my hometown is also happening the flood because of heavy rain that happened for last week. So that's also the problem why we need NPS. And what we aim, so basically what we aim is to achieve water security with the focus one on the water quantity, so more on the infiltration and yield. And then the second is about the water quality, so focus on the turbidity and sediment control. That's on the main goal for the water security. But of course, when we are talking about the water things, it's always related to other thing. Like there will be another co-benefit that we hope it will be also give us things by implementing this nature-based solution, like also reduction in the disaster, like the landslide and also the flood, and improve the livelihood and biodiversity. But again, when we talk about nature-based solution, it's probably will be a very long time to happen. So therefore, we don't say forget the green infrastructure. So green infrastructure still we need still to do it, but combine it with the green infrastructure to achieve sustainable water security. Yeah. So currently we still in the pre-FS, so we haven't do the intervention yet. But thanks to the Nature for Water, we hope that things to implement the NPS can really happen. And from the Nature for Water has already give us things or possible intervention that can we implement in Semarang, like in the upstream, in the Ungar, in the mountain, we can do reforestation, agroforestry, terrace farming, and then in the river, we can have riparian buffers, and in the farm, we can have intercropping. And actually, there's also previous study done by the RVO from the Netherlands, where nature-based solution is things that been overlooked in Semarang and can be started and should be started if Semarang City want to have a good water resource management. And because of the waterworks and the nature for water, this is the opportunity to work and walk together in this case. But since this water resource thing is actually not a water utility things also, because when we talk about water utility, we always talk about water production, how we treat the water. We talk about hydraulic model, not hydrology sometimes. And we talk about customer service. So actually, this kind of thing is not within the mandate of water utility in Indonesia. However, things about water security can be communicated from PDAM because perhaps from the institution they don't understand what's the importance of the water resource management, but us as water utility can communicate about that. So that's why the role of PDAM is here. It acts as enabler to communicate the importance of water security in relation to the water supply, and then it will result in the better livelihood to the community. So that's the role of PDAM as a bridge between the urban demand and the upstream management. And of course, PDAM as water utility can also act as the one who can give a complete data because in water utility, we always monitor the quality. We always monitor the quantity also in real time. So therefore, we can also give the data. And again, that's what I mentioned also, is that because we are the one who have a role to bridge between the demand of the urban and also the upstream management, then we can also have a role in leading the stakeholder engagement with central, provincial, and city government. So if you see in the picture, it was 2 weeks ago, we have a stakeholder workshop with 50 stakeholders from central government, provincial, and city government, because this kind of thing, again, is involving a lot of stakeholders. And because we are in the GWOPA, so there are also role of WOP or waterworks here as catalyst, because from FI, for example, they have a lot of example how water utility can manage the water resources, and that's the thing that we can learn from. So we learn from FI, from Waterworks, how we should do this kind of thing. And again, this the opportunity for PDM Semarang to be able included in the Nature for Water program is also because of Waterworks, where they also introduce this kind of thing. So that's where the role between the mentor and the mentee utility. And last not least, but this is also things why Nature for Water program is very good for us, because they offer a good value proposition. Where, for example, the Nature for Water program have experience in dealing this kind of thing, so their experience can become things that help us in implementing this nature-based solution. And also in Nature for Water facility platform, they can also find us some funds, etc. So that's the thing where this Nature for Water program is interesting for us. So this on the picture is also from 2 weeks ago, where actually the stakeholders also welcome this kind of thing, because I think the knowledge of nature-based solutions is still limited, and having someone to help us in this aspect is really helpful. So thank you. And he's also from the Ungaran Mountain. You can see that it's also in the Semarang city, so that's why it's a water tower. And we hope that we start here the partnership, so the partnership with nature begins and continue. Thank you very much.
Hello again. Okay, so we just heard a perfect example of a lot of municipalities including nature-based solutions within their landscapes, within their cities. And we just heard about Nature for Water. And I don't know if I forgot to mention, but within TNC, I work for Nature for Water, and we want to share with you what do we do and what can we do with you and for you. So you saw this slide previously, and as you can see, $800 billion per year are going towards gray infrastructure. And this is huge, but only like less than 1 billion is going to green infrastructure. And we just heard how both can work and how actually we need both to address the water security challenges that we are facing right now. So understanding that, as Nature for Water, which is a program within the Nature Conservancy, our goal is to transform how those water investments are made and hopefully tilt a little bit, at least $1 million or $1 billion, per year going towards green infrastructure. And to achieve this, we work closely with local partners that we like to call local champions, local institutions in the design establishment of watershed investment programs. And I'll tell you what this means in a minute. This is where we are working right now. So we are supporting local institutions all over the world, as you can see. Recently, starting in Asia to work with. So really exciting to expand our portfolio. But we, since 2022, have been working with, now counting more than over 40 actually, different watershed investment programs at different levels. And who do we work with? Who are those institutions that we work with? They look very different in every context. So we work with utilities, water authorities, river basin agencies, non-governmental institutions, DFIs. It really varies, and sometimes even in partnership with two. So if they come together, that's even better. And what we've seen that really works are mandated organizations leading these processes. So this is just a broad example of who can apply for our services. And so what is a watershed investment program? Why are we talking about this? As I mentioned previously, nature-based solutions work at scale, and they support utilities. And why do they support utilities? Because they can actually support or improve the water quality or help you protect those water sources to actually provide water to your populations. So we call watershed investment programs to this vehicle that will actually allow you to implement those nature-based solutions at scale through time and even include maintenance, because that's really important. With same as with gray infrastructure, you need to include maintenance. So this is a program that should last and should be implemented in time, not pilots here and there, but actually a program that is deploying nature-based solutions. And it requires governance, it requires financial funding streams. It's really important also to mention that this is a collective action. So it's not only a utility company championing this, as we just heard. This is not a single institution's problem. It's sometimes it's the Ministry of Agriculture involvement, the Ministry of Environment, the Forestry Ministry. So it's a lot of organizations and institutions, NGOs, local communities working together to actually deploy these types of programs. What does a program like this look like in reality? And I apologize again for this slide. This is actually a snapshot from the decision support system of Cape Town, which is one of our, I would say, more successful watershed investment programs. And it has here really important elements that I wanted to highlight. First, it has a programmatic vision. So watershed investment programs need a vision. And as you can see here, they have a vision for the Greater Cape Town Fund to ensure healthy and resilient catchments, providing sustainable water for people and nature. That's the big goal. And they have one nature-based solution. It could be more, but they have a nature-based solution portfolio, which is the removal of alien invasive plants in this landscape. Why? Because in 2019, I think many of you have heard, but Greater Cape Town was running out of water, and they compared this investment towards different gray infrastructure investments and the removal of invasives, which were consuming double or triple the water from native species, were actually, it was actually the most cost efficient. I believe the only other alternative was desalination, and the costs were like 10 times higher. So the program basically deployed, and as you can see, it has funders and it has implementers, which also is really important for our watershed investment program to work, and it has targets. So we need to establish where do we want to get, how much water do we need to get, when is that enough, what is the quality of water that we want to get to. So in this, again, slide of the watershed in Cape Town, if you can see here, like each one of those little shapes is basically where implementation is happening. They like to identify the cost in this dashboard, the hectares that they're doing per year, who is implementing. So this is what it looks like in reality. Lots of implementers going towards one same goal with one same vision. So what can we offer to you? What can we support utilities with? We support in 3 ways. 1, program preparation. 2, implementation support. And 3, knowledge management. I'll focus more on the first one. So we understand that this is difficult, it's challenging, and you also need to provide numbers to the boards, and you need to prove that this is actually a good investment. So we help utilities first in pre-feasibility assessments to understand what is the water security challenge, where is it coming from, what are the drivers, and if there's potential for nature-based solutions. Because I also want to be transparent and say that sometimes nature-based solutions won't answer the question. And it's okay, but we need to try, and we need to see if there's actually feasibility or not. If the pre-feasibility is successful, we move to feasibility, where we really identify if there is a return of investments, if there are cost benefits. If we are working with a utility, we usually do a return of investment, so you can actually convince your board members. And we can also do cost-benefit assessments if it's with a more economic lens. Here we also identify what could be the possible governance structure, what could be the financial streams to fund this. And then in design, we actually try to put that into the ground, start looking at how much NBS, where would those NBS be located, what specific species should be in place, in how many years should they be deployed. So we support organizations in all those 3 phases, and the offering could come through fee-based partnerships, so paying for our services, but we also do a call for proposals one times a year. So I believe the next one is March 2026, where utilities apply for our services through a call for ideas, and at least 8 are benefited every year. So different requests that have come towards Nature for Water. We just heard the one from Indonesia. This is one coming from FONAG, which is actually a watershed investment program that has been running for the last 20 years. It's the first in Latin America, and it's funded, the watershed investment program is funded by the utility and by the electric company. And so far, they've been protecting more than 400,000 páramos, which are this amazing ecosystem in South America. They work directly with more than 700 families through conservation agreements. They have created green jobs, and they have a budget per year for implementation of at least 2 million. And recently, they requested our services because they wanted to understand if they added a new nature-based solutions towards their portfolio. And the request was a financial analysis for the utility, an economic analysis for the population, a manual for doing that properly, like in this case, removing invasives of pine and eucalyptus, and an analysis of institutional barriers and opportunities. So we are just actually finishing this, but the results are really positive. We were able to confirm that the removal of this invasive species in this case was able to provide a return of 1.6. So it's very positive in that case. I'm gonna move forward because I have 1 minute. But this is another example. This is a municipality in the United States, in Milwaukee, which had the resources to implement nature-based solutions because they have a risk management program, but they didn't know what to do, where to do it. So here what they requested was a prioritized portfolio. So they had 11 million, what to do with those 11 million, where could those 11 million drive more benefits, a strategic plan and a decision support system. And this is an example of the results that we got. So we got a reforestation plan, where could those trees be planted that drive more benefits. We had results for wetland restoration. Where could those wetland restoration provide more benefits as well? And what they wanted to do is to reduce floods. So here we can see like some of the benefits that we were able to manage, like total stormwater storage of 3 million of million gallons, 1.6 million gallons, sorry. And there are like the other benefits that you can see there. But the message here is we're here to help. So please engage with us, and happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to invite the panelists to join me on the stage so we can start with our interactive session. So I remember that I promised you that we would have an interactive session. So please, panelists, join me on the stage, and then we can start with the questions. So if the IT could change again to the questions. So as I said, we are now going to do the questions. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, briefly introduce yourself, who you are, where you work, and who you would like to answer your question out of our panelists. So please start the questions. Are there any questions for our panelists? I can see one question over there already. Maybe I can borrow one of the microphones and then walk around so then everybody can hear the question.
It's working? Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I am from Mongolia, Water Supply and Sewerage Authority of Ulaanbaatar City. So the presentations are very important, and interesting. So I have two questions for Miss from Jordan. And the presentation said you are going to project on the empowering the youths. Yeah, it's very important that they are our future. And can you tell us more detailed information about that? So the second question is Mr. from the Indonesia. In the rice season, you have to face the water production shortage. It's very high risk, and how your utility manage it is very important. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, in fact, we believe in the power of young generation in shaping the future. And that's why an important component of this project, which is funded by the Dutch government, is focusing on engaging youth in the decision-making process and coming up with community-based interventions. These are small scale interventions that could be replicated later on by citizens by themselves. So we worked with a local NGO called the Royal Society for the Conservation of Nature, RSCN in Jordan, and we issued this competition to university students. And we provided awareness raising sessions on the concepts of nature-based solution and how to come up with these ideas and integrate them in at city level. So through this NGO, we started with a press conference in the presence of the mayor of Amman as local leader, and also in the presence of the Minister of Environment, because for us it's important to have this coherence between the national and local level, and also to promote this not only within municipalities, but in the greater, actually, on the wider urban governance systems. And that's why, for instance, when we've conducted this official mission to the Netherlands, we brought like 10 officials from different municipalities, utility companies, from also Ministry of Water and Irrigation. We want to disseminate the knowledge around nature-based solutions. So these students, we will providing mentoring to them, moving with them step by step. They submitted already the initial ideas. Now we are revising these ideas, providing comments from a jury like local academic experts in the field of urban planning and also hydrology. And we will select 3 winning projects. And these projects will be implemented and funded by this project. So we're providing these pilots, demonstrating the concept of nature-based solutions that could be later replicated. So yeah, this was our approach. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Check. Yeah. So allow me to answer the question. So thank you for the question. And I think the question is about the how's our top management see about this, correct? Yeah. So actually, this kind of thing is possible is because our top management is supporting this idea. So at first, our technical director at that time, he really want to do this kind of project, and then from Waterworks 5 came to introduce us with this program. So therefore, we really happy with this opportunity, and then Waterworks also support us, and then we apply, and basically we get into this current situation. And that's actually a reason why the top management is really want to do this kind of thing. Is again that also what I already shared in the presentation is because of the problem, but also to make the stakeholders really to make a move, because us as a water utility, we pay taxes, but then we get the water in bad quality, and then we also, in Indonesia case, we also pay in the raw water resource management fee, which is, in our perspective, it does not bring a lot of value. But again, only complaining will take us nothing. So therefore, from Semarang Water Utility is also moving by doing the study, which is quite a thing, because then Nature for Water came. The timing is very very good. So yeah, so that's why we really doing this project. Is it answering your question? Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ardian, and thank you, Dima, for your answers. Are there any more questions? Oh, yes, I will come to you.
Thanks a lot. And thank you very much for this session and for talking about this really important topic. It seems so obvious to me that utilities need to be embracing nature-based solutions so much more. And I'm wondering if WOPs, and I thank you for some of you for addressing it, if WOPs, to what extent WOPs can be really a vehicle for this, these peer partnerships, because this conference is all about WOPs and how we can share with one another. But somehow it doesn't feature very prominently in very many of our water operators partnerships. So this example that was shown today is almost an exception. And I'm wondering, why that is. I mean, part of the answer, I think, comes from the fact that there aren't many operators that are set up, like Augusta Porto has, Portugal, it has a really, which has this very full water cycle kind of approach. They interact with the city. They're responsible for so much. So the planning and the water, resources and the services are very much integrated. So you have this perspective. But I also think that there's maybe a limitation in the way WOPs are set up. Maybe my hypothesis is that the more infrastructure is gray, the easier it is to do a WOP. And if we want to move away from gray infrastructure, how do we need to adapt WOPs so that that cities, utilities can support one another more?
Maybe I can just give a quick idea, but I think as these partnerships evolve and you do peer-to-peer learning, I think it could be also interesting to understand which utilities are actually interested in learning or curious on implementing nature-based solutions, and understand how can you also do those peer-to-peer with those that are not implementing and those that want to implement. So they can actually exchange ideas and understand what's working and how did they do it and what were the challenges.
Maybe I can add something, I don't know. Maybe we need to really study, and I think that you touched on that when you talked about the ROI concept. So I don't think that it's clearly understandable for many operators the true value or the true potential of nature-based solutions. So it's easier to go along with gray solutions, right? So I think that there's still like this lack of instrument, indicator, whatever that provides like a key figure of how valuable it is to go for nature instead of going for gray. On the other hand, I think that within the concept of WOPs, probably when we are working with another operator, we can try to instill the the desire to change the management model of the utilities, because what we see in Porto is that the fact that we are managing, that we are treating all water as one water, puts us at a very strong position within the city, okay, and makes us in a position in which we can really speak to the shareholder, to other municipalities, and be listened to. So I think that changing the management models of utilities would be also like a step forward to make WOPs successful. It's very difficult to, and we see it, for instance, in a neighboring municipality in which the stormwater is managed by the municipality itself, and the wastewater is managed by a utility. And for instance, when they are trying to get rid of overflows, you see that the municipality is trying to to prevent wastewater to go to the stormwater infrastructure, so the water quality of the blue infrastructure is not compromised. And what we see on the operator side is that they are preventing stormwater going to the wastewater infrastructure. So the operation costs, especially the wastewater treatment costs, they don't increase. So there's not a coordinated action between the two, even though they are under the same shareholders. So only this small example shows that, how difficult it is to manage water when everything is scattered along different stakeholders, right? Yeah, these are my contributions. I don't know if it answers partially your question, because it is a very, very difficult question.
Yeah. Maybe if I can contribute a little bit also about the Julie question, because also quite complex. I think what we could share also from our perspective as a mentor utility during the WOPs is that the mentor utility sometimes like FI or FITENS, for example, in this case, because we have a lot of interaction with FITENS in this case, is that they have good that what you said, management model, yeah, the management model. So in this case, we call it a stakeholder management, where during that time, in the phase 1 of Waterworks at 2019, it's also already been assessed that PDAM Semarang is need that kind of thing to have a better governance. Sorry, to have the stakes communicated better to the stakeholder, especially for the water resources. But at that time, because maybe the problem is not yet very big, then it's quite neglected. However, then in the phase 2, again, because WOP is very flexible, it's based on the opportunity that arise and also the problem that WOPs face during that time. So the stakeholder management topic is rising again, I think in 2024. And that kind of thing is what we could learn from the mentor utility. So it's not related about nature only, but it's also related about how we could learn from the best practice from the mentor utility to support this project. So in this case, where the nature-based solution is probably will be implemented not only by PDAM or water utility, but maybe with also from the private sector, and also the government will be the one who monitor and making the how to say the procedure on implementing, on directing the private sector. So the stakeholder management topic, the one that we learn from mentor utility, is very important to enabling this project. So I think that I can contribute a little bit on that. Thank you.
Dima, did you want to say something?
Yeah, maybe I can add here also, in the context of Jordan, the mandate of stormwater belongs to the municipalities, while utilities are responsible for water and wastewater. But here, the main important point is to follow a multi-stakeholder-like approach, enhancing the vertical and horizontal coordination among institutions in Jordan. So opening up this dialogue between utilities and municipalities is quite important, and this is the approach that we follow in all our projects. We bring all stakeholders on the same table, and when we do prioritization for the intervention jointly between our stakeholders. The second point that I would like to focus on is demonstrating the impact of nature-based solution to utilities is quite important. And here, what we have done is doing cost-benefit analysis for these nature-based solutions, showing how actually cost-effective they are, unlike the gray big infrastructure projects. So what we are trying to promote is following an incremental approach to influence the systematic change. So by doing these and scaling up these interventions, we have a bigger impact at the end of the day. So demonstrating some projects that have an impact on communities is quite important. The final point, it's not very much related to utilities, but the change comes from local communities. So by empowering local communities and giving them the chance to voice their needs, they may trigger the change at the end of the day. So community engagement is quite important in the decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your answers and thank you for the very good question. I have time for one more question. So, does anybody else have a question? No more questions? No? So then I will give the floor to Daniela. So she will do the closing of... Oh, one more question. All right.
Muy buenas tardes. Yo soy Bartolomé Chocoj de Guatemala. He tenido el honor de trabajar con comunidades rurales e indígenas en proyectos de agua y de desarrollo social durante más de 20 años. Desde nuestra experiencia en América Latina y puntualmente en Guatemala, comprendemos que no basta con invertir grandes recursos. Es esencial invertir con calidad, con razonabilidad y con propósitos puntuales, sobre todo pertinentes y también muy respetuosos de las identidades, de las formas de vida propias de las comunidades, sobre todo las comunidades indígenas, ¿no? Originarias. En muchos países se ha destinado millones a proyectos bien intencionados, pero los cambios reales en las comunidades aún son limitados. Por eso debemos garantizar que cada inversión se traduzca en resultados sostenibles y medibles, fortaleciendo las capacidades locales y promoviendo la confianza de la población para hacer más pertinente el proyecto con relación a la transformación de la calidad de vida hacia un estado de bienestar. Si priorizamos la eficiencia, la transparencia y el impacto humano que queremos tener, lograremos que cada dólar, cada euro que se invierta represente un cambio verdadero en la vida de las personas y en la protección de nuestros ecosistemas. Quiero finalizar reconociendo el importante trabajo que realizan. Sin embargo, creo oportuno que para que la solidaridad sea una acción real, es importante que también se revise esos parámetros y se pueda conseguir un impacto real, efectivo, pertinente y que de verdad transforme las vidas en nuestros pueblos. Muchas gracias.
All right, so I've been investing a lot on my French fluency the last few years, but that doesn't really help me here. I could see Ruben and Diana nodding, so if you could repeat maybe the question for the audience who was not able to hear the question.
Well, actually, it was, I believe it was not a question, it was more a reflection. So he was just reflecting on the importance of including communities in these processes and not only focusing on efficiency and numbers, but more like how do we make this more integral, more holistic, these processes, and again, like focus or within this process and the development of these processes with communities. And I agree, and again, like from our perspective, at least when we try to develop watershed investment programs, they are collective actions and they need to involve local communities, and if there are indigenous communities within the development processes and ideally within the earliest stages of development. So, yeah, muchas gracias y tomo muy en cuenta su comentario.
All right, thank you very much. Now that I understand the remark as well, thank you very much. I would like to give the floor to Daniela. If you could do the closing ceremony, that would be great.
So thank you everybody for staying here until late, right? Well, I think it's already past time, but I do agree that the session was very interesting, so I understand why you are still here with us. My name is Daniela. I'm the Director of Strategic Programs at the International Water Association, and we partner with TNC in promoting nature-based solutions across our members. Wow. Although it's a challenge to summarize such an interesting session in 5 minutes, it's still easy, this particular session, because I see all presentations were very aligned And not only the case studies were aligned, but were aligned with the context setting presentation given by Diana. And I liked her presentation because I think you mentioned planting a tree is a nature-based solutions, right? So nature-based solution sometimes is used as a buzzword. And it's very important to set the context when we are talking technically about that. So I would highlight from TNC's presentation the fact that they have multiple benefits. So, and one of the benefits needs to be biodiversity, needs to be environment. And this is something that sometimes we forgot when discussing at an engineering level, I would say, especially at the urban scale. So it was good that she highlighted the most well-known definition of nature-based solution. It really needs to be addressing biodiversity and environment. So I think that it was very interesting that also she highlighted that it works at scale. And yes, one tree will not solve the problem. It has to be at scale. And this leads to the point of the governance, right? If we are talking about multiple scales, we have to deal with different mandates. We have to deal with cities, utilities, cities, regions, and sometimes nations. So the governance of implementation of nature-based solutions at scale is really complex. And I mentioned here just the public actors, but if you think about the other actors, it gets even more complex. I like it that Ruben from Porto mentioned not only the community that is obvious and all speakers and audience mentioned, but he mentioned the real estate developers. Those are key players in the governance of nature-based solutions and the urban scale, because they have a lot to contribute, or they can be enablers, but also they can really be barriers to be faced. So we need to engage them at the urban scale. So I also from Porto experience, I would highlight the human before pipes that Diana mentioned in the beginning, and I live in Porto. So I can attest that it's really interesting, the solutions that they are applying. And of course, I have a water eye, right? So I look at the park, for instance, Asparella Park, as a nature-based solution. But most people don't know. People just enjoy being there because it's a very nice park. It's really used by the community, and they don't realize that it actually has other functions. So yes, Porto certainly is putting human before pipes, and that's very interesting. Well, I would highlight also from TNC's presentation the multiple challenges that nature-based solutions can address, from water scarcity to flood management and all range of problems in between those. And I think all presentations highlighted that. For instance, Jordan, although they face water scarcity challenges, they are using nature-based solutions to deal with flash floods in Amman. And so from their presentations, her presentation, I really like it, that she highlighted the relevance of planning. We tend, engineers in utilities, we tend to kind of leapfrog a bit, skip a bit the planning part and really want to deliver things. And in this case, especially due to all the stakeholders involved, we do really need to spend a lot of time in planning before developing and implementing the solutions. I really liked the engagement of young generation. Youth can play a vital role here because there are cultural barriers against nature-based solutions. Some populations, they see them as kind of a second-level solution. Oh, you don't have money to put pipes, so you're coming with this new idea that is actually just to save money. And youth is usually much more open to those ideas, and they can be champions to older generations. So I really like that that part of Amman's Jordan's experience. So We had also the experience of Indonesia, and it was interesting because it was presenting something regarding water scarcity, and then the mandate and the multiple stakeholder situation is even more relevant because in their case they have the central or the national government, they have the regional or the provincial government, and they have the city, and they have the utility that I did not understand if it's municipal or state. It's municipal, so it's municipal utility. So it's very interesting because they cannot solve their problem without the watershed, right? Cities are not islands. Well, a few cities are islands, most cities are not islands. And so they do depend on their interaction with the basin. IWA even had a program in the past that was called Basin Connected Cities, because cities need to be connected to their basins. So the coordination, somebody used the word coordination, I highlighted here, I don't remember who said that, but the coordination among those multiple stakeholders is key. So I also liked it a lot from the second presentation from TNC, the Milwaukee example, and for one main reason: money is not everything. Right? They had $11 million, and still they needed support. Okay, we do have the money. It's not so simple to define what to do with the money. So I do believe that this was a very good example, because we, from developing countries, I'm from Brazil, I'm from a developing countries, we tend to say that it's easy to say that we don't solve our problems because of money. But even when we have money, it's not so easy to solve, right? Well, now I'm going to leave a challenge. I would have a question, but then I decided not to go because we are finishing, and I want to trigger the debate after the session to future sessions and future events. In our event, in IWA's event, we do have a series of webinars. You're welcome to, perhaps we can have a series on nature-based solutions and further discuss that. But I don't think it was touched here. Somebody mentioned, I think Ruben vaguely mentioned, but I think it's wow, it could have an entire session just for that, operation and maintenance, right? It's very complex, especially for utilities. And I used to run a utility back in Brazil, and our workforce is not used to that. So suddenly you ask people that are, for 20, 30 years, they are used to clean pipes, and now you have to cut grass. Now you have to take care of garden. So they're not used to that. So there's a cultural shift that needs to be made, and it's very, very, very difficult to be implemented. And I think there would be a lot to talk. So this is just to trigger future discussions. Another trigger is like, this is very personal for me. I love to learn from failures. We tend always to present successful case studies, right? And nobody wants to share the situations that we failed. But we actually learn as much as, or perhaps even more, from situations where we did not make it. So perhaps that's also a challenge we can have in the future, a session where we highlight good examples, but also failures. And finally, just to invite you to continue this conversation. Some of you might know IWA is running the Water and Development Congress in December 2025 from 8 to 12 in Bangkok, Thailand. And we'll have multiple sessions on nature-based solutions, including some of the presenters here. And we'll also have the Utility Leaders Forum. That is a one-day event dedicated only to utilities, and nature-based solutions is also going to be one of the topics to be addressed there. Thank you very, very much for your participation and for the panelists for this very, very interesting debate. Thank you.